for Book of Experts TV.
Topics you love.
Experts you trust.
Friction-free referrals.
Tried,
tested,
Trusted.
This is Book of Experts, brought to you by salesman.me.
Welcome, guys. Welcome back to bookofexperts.tv. And today we're talking about not funnels, but flywheels. Now, I'm a digital marketer. I've worked in the space for a while, and it seems like everybody is always talking about funnels, funnels, this and that, funnels that. It's always about how to move people through a process, but we're going to see a really interesting example today of how you can turn that funnel idea upside down, spin it around, and turn it into a flywheel and actually create a different effect, particularly and this is what's going to be most interesting to me about today's expert, is we're going to talk about using that really good content, that entertaining, edutainment kind of content where people really engage with you, how that can become the driving force in your business. Maybe you already have it and it's not creating business, but you can tie that together in a really interesting way. So let me bring our guest on. Jaime O'Connor, welcome to Book of Experts TV. Super excited to have you here.
Super excited to be here.
Yeah, so I have loved, ever since we first, we did our Purple Cow workshop with you a couple months ago now, and we talked about this, not funnels, but flywheels approach and what you're doing with Inspired Focus Digital. Did I get that name right? Inspired Focus Digital, yeah. That what you guys do on the strategy side, particularly working with folks who are, I think your clients oftentimes have really great content that they're then able to leverage, or with your help, be able to leverage that into a really exciting business model on the backside. Can you share a little bit about what are we talking about here? What's the difference between, actually, let's not do flywheel versus funnel. Let's do, how did you get into this work first? And then because I want to hold back the secret sauce for a minute or two, build our audience into this.
Well, I do go into that a little bit in the masterclass piece of it, but I have been on my entrepreneurial journey for a really long time, and I started doing digital marketing in 2011, 2012, mainly in organic, and that was because I was in the event space and I was doing the marketing to support the events that I was running at the time, doing event marketing. And I got burnt out working 18-hour days in event marketing, and tried to build my own e-commerce store. And you had to know how to run traffic and do all of the other pieces. So really trying to slog my way through figuring it all out back in 2015. And so it's just been a process over the time. I think I did the first round of ClickFunnels training that Russell Brunson ever did, learning how to build a funnel. And there's still use for a funnel. It can fit within a flywheel. But I think that what I've learned over the last few years is there's a lot more we can do that actually builds brand for the long haul and is not just flash in the pan.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us have had that experience. So my timeline mirrors yours of sort of when I entered the digital marketing space. And we've all been in that position of, trying the e-commerce store, trying the ClickFunnels, like a lot of us have been there, done that, and not gotten the results that we were looking for. So that's what's really interesting to me, is I want to unpack that, because you've produced some amazing results for your clients. Can you share a couple of data points for us right up front so people know why they should be paying attention to this masterclass?
Yeah, for sure. So, one of the big things is that we leave so much money on the table in the way that most people are running advertising today online. And that's because they've made it so easy for us to tell the algorithms, tell the machines that we want purchasers or we want leads, and they'll go out and get them for us. And so that creates this opportunity, which is amazing, to get those people and get the low-hanging fruit right away, the people who are ready to purchase. But the reality is that is not how marketing has been run historically and run well to build really big companies. And we, as smaller entrepreneurs, can actually look to what has worked historically really, really well in marketing over the last century and see, okay, there's more opportunity than just the people that are ready to buy right now. And if we start to look at who our audience really is and how we can nurture them over time, then that creates this opportunity where you're building up a machine yourself that can continue to run even when something small breaks. And so we have clients that, are content creators, like really beautiful docuseries that were selling products to their audience, and they were totally burning out their audience by constantly putting stuff in front of them saying, buy my stuff, when their audience was there to watch their content. And so by looking at how do we leverage the reason why your audience is really there and engaging with you and presenting that first, presenting the value first before basically asking them to marry us, then we can create real relationships and long-term viability, not just buy my stuff right now and then we'll never see you again. And not just content creators can use this, but product brands or digital product content creators too can look at that and see what they did and replicate it on the other side. So there's a lot of opportunity that exists that I think a lot of people are leaving so much money on the table by just trying to get the low-hanging fruit.
And what can you give us? What do those numbers look like as an example for even just one, just as we're getting started here? I want people to see that sort of before and after. Snapshot.
So I think the best example we have is from those docuseries, clients who were getting your pretty average return on ad spend, like someone's as low as 1.5. Sometimes they would have as high as 3. And their highest months would be in your typical sale time, like during Black Friday. When we kind of flipped the script and started really marketing using their content, not just the fact that they sell products, and then said, oh, you've watched a lot of this content in ads, you should buy the products. We started seeing consistently high return on ad spend, like 3 and 4 times during non-sale months. And then when we got to Black Friday this year, they actually sold the same amount that they sold the year before on Friday, that they sold Friday through Monday. And it was 30 times return. And that was purely built out of building these really amazing audiences of people who really loved who they were and then presenting the product to them.
Yeah, I think this is so important, particularly for folks. I mean, with Book of Experts, we see a lot of people that are in the expert-based business space. They're providing programs, services, sometimes online courses, sometimes agency owners, books, podcasts. They're putting themselves out there for what they know and what they can share with their people. And so that buy my stuff just doesn't work very well. So I think this is going to be fascinating to get in. And when you can take someone from 1.5 to 3x on the low end and turn around and basically 10x that to 30 or more. Yes, you have our attention, Jaime. I think we all want to see a little bit more about this. That's amazing.
I'm excited to share it with you. I think it's going to be really fun. And I think a lot of people will have some aha moments, I hope.
Super. Let me get out of your way. I'll bring up the slides and let's dive into the masterclass.
Perfect. All righty. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to teach you today how to ditch the funnel and build a flywheel. And that's really going to show you how to increase your revenue with less ad spend, but also really focus on succeeding for the long haul, not just making this funnel and making it successful until it's not and having to redo it again. Are you maybe a little bit over the idea of one funnel away? I know that I hear it. Like I said, I was in Russell Brunson's very early ClickFunnels trainings where he was teaching about the funnels and honestly taking a lot of the ideas that we are going to talk about and putting it into the funnel. The reality is, and actually I'm noticing, I don't know if you guys are seeing it. So, but I might have to share my screen differently because it's not changing.
Yeah, I see. It's like
Okay,
yeah.
1 second.
Let's try it one more
more
time. Looks like
time.
got froze up on us in the
Okay.
interim.
Let's try
So, and we
again.
also we had a couple people who needed the link to AirMeet. So I'm going to grab that for you guys. We had a couple folks that weren't able to get in with us into the AirMeet. So
Okay.
I will put that in the comments for you guys that are looking for that. We have some folks watching on the different social media channels, but I just put in the comments the link to AirMeet. And so why should you go there? Because that's where we're going to have the virtual tables. We're going to do Q&A after Jaime finishes with a masterclass. So you definitely want to get in there. Let's try this again, Jaime.
Okay. Let's see. Does it work?
Yes.
Yay.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, cool.
So, one of the things that got me here was I got really sick of the idea of hearing over and over that you're just one funnel away and that's like this magic solution. I am not a believer in silver bullets. I am a really big believer in creating something that is not evergreen, but that will last, that will stand the test of time. And this theory just never resonated with me. So I kind of started searching, and what I found, I really believe in. So what you guys are going to discover today is what exactly is a flywheel and how it can fit into your marketing strategy. How a flywheel can work in ads and turn your funnel into a selling machine. Now, I said funnel, and yes, a funnel can be part of your flywheel strategy, but the bottom line is it's not everything. And how the flywheel plugs your leaky bucket and gets back the money you're leaving on the table, which I touched on slightly. So before I get into it, I'm just going to say a couple housekeeping things. I am going to go pretty fast because I want to be able to get a lot of this out so we can chat about it in the networking and Q&A. So if you can give us your undivided attention, I would love that. I also am going to go pretty fast. So I think Tobin might ask a couple questions in there, but I'm really looking forward to answering any of your questions after we're done. So write them down, put them in the chat to Tobin, and hopefully we'll get to answer all of those, deep dive and chat about them in the networking. So who's this training for? Anyone interested in building a brand for the long haul, not just short-term wins. Anyone who's seen some success online and wants to really grow in a sustainable way. Established business who are really ready to skyrocket and make more money online. Content creators who want to monetize their audiences and make more money without burning out their tribe. And anyone sick of Lambo dudes and Maserati marketers selling a fake pipe dream. That's my favorite. So a little bit about me. An interesting tidbit of my background that I mentioned before was that I used to own a pretty successful event and marketing management company that specialized in sports. Before I decided to dive deep into my own product brand and actually produce that product, manufacture it myself, and I launched that e-commerce store back in 2014. I was like way in over my head. I touched on this a little bit with Tobin before, but I learned a lot, and my brain often felt like it was totally overfull 95% of the time, and I didn't know what to do or where to go. And I spent a lot of money, like all of my money, trying to figure out all of the solutions. And that's a lot of where I got the running start to come to today. But I definitely learned what not to do. And I ended up taking all that knowledge and getting started with a company that was doing about 1.5 million. I was with them till 10 million. They actually sold to an equity company last year for about 30 million. And I grew their e-commerce from 10,000 a month to about 100,000 a month. And that gave me kind of the foundation that I've now built a lot of this framework on that I'm helping businesses use for today. Because we weren't interested in kind of flash in the pan ideas. And I really wanted to build something that actually grew the brand while making sales at the same time. You know, as a small company, and I think a lot of you guys probably experience this, you can't just build brand. You have to have an ROI on a month-over-month basis. And there's this competing theory out there. There's the side of direct response and only focusing on that. And then there is like engagement and impressions. And I always felt really stuck between those two things because I wanted both. And this flywheel concept really brought me to a place where I feel like I can get both of those things for myself and for clients. I was going to chat about some of the biggest myths that I have seen exist out there in the marketplace. And some of those are that you just have to build a sales funnel and that's what's going to drive all your money. Some are that ads are the solution and will make you tons of money. Others are that ads will never work. There's a lot of things out there that people hear and sell on. And I think that personally, I take away from that there's a little bit from every single piece of it. So I want to tell you a little bit about a story of when I first got into the advertising side back in 2015. And I had already lost all my money in my e-commerce store, and I was starting to I was trying to build up the advertising plan for this new company. And I really was in over my head. I didn't actually know at that time that you could tell the Facebook algorithm to go find purchasers. And I had to find a friend after going through 2 different agencies that would show me how to look at ROAS in the back end. And this was like a huge aha moment for me. I think there's less so people today that don't realize that you can see these kinds of pieces of information and data in the back end of Facebook, but there's still a lot of people who don't realize the power that exists. And that was when I started to really dive into direct response. And I learned what it looks like to build out a funnel and build out a funnel in advertising. And for those of you who aren't super well versed in Facebook advertising, this is kind of what a minimum viable advertising funnel looks like. You tell Facebook, I only want purchasers. You base that on your pixel, which there's a whole other discussion on what the pixel is going to happen and how much data we're going to have with all the changes that are out there. But you essentially have purchases at the top, and then you retarget your audiences for anyone who didn't purchase right then and tell them to purchase. And then you usually retarget at the bottom for anyone who didn't purchase but took extra actions. And this could also be like book a call, or they became a lead, but they didn't take whatever the next step is. So these are all things that you can do. And this is actually still the gold standard of what most people do on Facebook advertising. And the reality is, when I started doing this in 2014, it kind of looked like this in the Facebook landscape. It was an open frontier with cheap, endless possibilities of customers that if you hit kind of close to home with your messaging and you had an okay website that kind of converted, you could make a lot of money. I actually kind of jokingly call it the blue rush, kind of like the gold rush, because Facebook really, for the first time ever since Google, gave you an opportunity to connect beyond just text with your customer in a way, and they would find the exact right customer to buy from you right then. And there was like very little competition. We kind of looked like an open beach that you stumble upon on your vacation. And it was so lovely when you were a business owner in 2015 and 2016. Oh my God, I have this gold mine of potential customers. Well, today, this is what the Facebook ad space looks like. And it's no longer a secret that you can tell the algorithm that I want purchasers, which has started to drive the costs up massively. It's super overwhelming and overcrowded. I'm going to give credit to this analogy to one of my mentor is Kurt Malley. He's like, this Facebook ads today is like going to the beach in Florida on a perfect June day. It is crazy. And the reality is that Kurt's strategy, the belt method on Facebook ads, is actually what inspired my idea behind the FlyWheel framework. The reality is the gold standard in building advertising campaign is getting so competitive. It's very expensive, and we are no longer able to get the level of return that we used to be able to get. So what do we do? How do we still take advantage and build a huge base of audience and purchasers when we're having to compete with a lot of money in the same way it used to be for TV advertising? I mean, it's not at that level yet, but you can't do the same thing you used to be able to do and build a brand for the long haul. Plus, bro marketers and agencies out there with their Lambos and their rented houses are still promoting to you that you should only focus on driving purchase, that it's a waste of money to use other objectives. But what they don't realize is that they've really trapped themselves from creating and growing a blue ocean. They're just competing in the same red ocean that everyone else is, with the same messaging and the same competition in who we're trying to get these ads in front of. You see, the number of people who are ready to buy your exact product right now is limited. And that's how it's always been. That's why huge businesses, as I mentioned, were able to build using TV and radio and other ways to actually connect with their audiences in deeper, more understanding ways. That's why old versions of direct response copy were long, really intense, deeply emotional pieces of copy and creative to connect with their audiences. And now with funnels, you're kind of treating people like lemmings, saying, buy my shit, and expecting them to just jump off and do it right now. Plus, the funnel model does nothing for you in creating long-term repeat customers. It becomes extremely expensive over time. And lastly, we often treat the funnel as the end-all be-all. So when it doesn't work, we feel like it won't work. But the problem is that that's not actually what makes businesses successful. The guy who coined the flywheel in business is author Jim Collins, who wrote Good to Great and Built to Last, among other really incredible business books. I really highly recommend anyone who's listening, if you haven't read those, they're truly incredible. I believe he has a new one that's actually focused on entrepreneurs at a lower level too, that is on my list to read next. And he said, one of the biggest and most common strategic mistakes lies in failing to aggressively and persistently make the most of our victories. One reason some leaders make this mistake is that they become seduced by the endless search for the next big thing, or shiny object syndrome, which we see a lot in marketing and in general in online industries and business owners that are trying to figure out how to build. And he goes on to say in the book, sometimes they do find the next big thing. Yet our research across multiple studies show that if you conceive of your flywheel in the right way, and if you continually renew and extend that flywheel, it can be remarkably durable, perhaps even capable of carrying your organization through a major strategic inflection point or turbulent disruption. You see, a flywheel historically is built into machinery. It's there to make it more efficient. Rather than just creating the energy to put into whatever the machine is used for, the energy gets put into a flywheel, which once fully moving amplifies the energy exerted and allows it to keep going even after you've stopped putting energy into it. The more energy you put into it, the faster it's going to go. If any part of the energy creation stops, the wheel can continue going for an extended period of time while you fix whatever broke. Jim Collins took this idea into a framework for building a really successful business. In business, he Amazon is actually probably the most known example of a flywheel. He has another really good example in the flywheel anthology that goes along with Good to Great. And it's on Vanguard, which is it's an online place where you can build your own stock portfolios. And as he explains, Vanguard shows how the best flywheels work. If you nail one component, you're propelled into the next component and the next and the next, almost like a chain reaction. In thinking about your own flywheel, it's vital that you don't think of your marketing as static, or he's talking about overall business strategy. It's not to be conceived as merely a list of static objectives that you're drawing a circle around. It has to capture a sequence that ignites and accelerates momentum. So how does this fit into marketing strategy? This is something that when I read Good to Great, it's been on the back of my mind for a long time. And I'm like, okay, this is basically what I've now started doing in advertising. How do I put this framework into place so people can understand how well this can work if you build something beyond a funnel? So with the flywheel, you use the momentum of your happy customers and referrals and repeat sales to basically keep your business spinning. So the first step, of course, in order to use a flywheel strategy is to create something people really rave about and want. So this isn't launch strategy. This isn't creating the new thing. This is when you have something you know people love, this is how to turn it into something that lasts for a really, really, really long time. It's true that the specific flywheel can only work in your marketing when you have something people really want. But once you have it, you can truly exit the red ocean and operate in your own blue ocean. A place of possibility that using your flywheel and in your marketing strategy and advertising will like exponentially grow where you're at. Because once you have it, the more you increase speed and decrease friction for people to become a part of your world, the more you will create promoters of your business. And those promoters become the force that spins your flywheel. So we're looking at the next level. What does inspired growth look like? So this is kind of looking at what a traditional funnel in the most basic sense looks like, and what it looks like to kind of look at a flywheel instead of a funnel. So your marketing funnel can actually kind of fit in to that place of attract and engage and getting those sales. Because the reality is I don't want to ignore the fact that direct response still works. It's just not the only thing that should be a part of your marketing strategy to really look at long-term growth and to be able to exponentially grow in a way that you won't be able to if you only focus on putting money into the top of that funnel, driving people into customers. Because what it does is it totally ignores all the ways that those customers actually could drive so much more business for you. Whether that's them becoming repeat customers in a more efficient, elegant way, but it's also them becoming your evangelists and your promoters so that more and more people are driven in. So looking at this, this is kind of how you build it into the idea of a marketing and advertising strategy. So you start really in the yellow section where people are strangers. In an advertising sense, you use videos. So if you have really amazing content and maybe you're doing this organically, that's perfect. Because you're driving people in organically and you utilize that same value to replicate what you do organically with advertising behind it. It's fuel to your fire. And a lot of times we go directly to a lead magnet, or we go directly to maybe a webinar or an opt-in, instead of recognizing that if we really have value that we're bringing, we can probably get people engaged watching for a lot longer in our videos through an ad than it's going to cost us for them to become a lead. So if they watch your video for 30 minutes, let's just say, I know that sounds crazy, but we actually have run 30-minute videos at the top of the funnel to cold audiences and gotten them for $1 to $1.50. How much would it cost you to get people to go in through a lead funnel to then only potentially watch that 30-minute video? Now, there's going to be different people that are going to take different actions. So at that stranger's level where we're attracting, you want to still have the lead magnet and the webinar. But what we're missing out on in kind of a flywheel strategy is adding in those video ads at the top to really start to try and drive people in a value-driven way. But it's actually the next piece, the prospects turning into customers piece, that most people miss in their advertising and their marketing funnel. So in this section, we're actually combining both our existing customers as well as our prospects into one area and really just continuing to nurture them, providing value in front of them on a regular basis. This is actually what a lot of people do organically. We build it into an advertising funnel, recognizing that sometimes people take time to build trust and see your authority before they're going to make a purchasing decision or even give you their information as a lead. In this area, we can use video, email, and even direct conversations to really start to nurture people in a way that gets them built up and ready to purchase. And what this is doing is it's expanding your pool of people. The video ads at the top that are adding more people into the pool from just purchasers or leads or people that would book a call right now, you're expanding your pool from the top. You're putting them into a middle that is going to nurture them over time. Then you're presenting offers at various times. You can do this evergreen. You can do it in a launch strategy. It really doesn't matter. Whatever works for your business and existence, this is just fuel to the fire. And then you have to have a way to capture that enthusiasm and create more incentives for your customers who have become hopefully raving fans because you've been nurturing them all along the way to then share and drive more people in. And the thing about this is that when you actually build this fully, you can put leverage, energy, time, or money into any one of these particular areas to then drive it faster and make it go faster. So let's just say if we have the whole thing built, then we say, okay, we're going to drive more people into the middle of funnel by building more video ads, creating more cold audiences, and spend more money here. Then that's going to build more people in to create trust and authority. And that will just continue to drive around the circle. So I wish I had a GIF of it. But having, like, if you can imagine some velocity starting to go behind this, you could then say, okay, we want to present other offers. Well, then that's going to just drive more people in to have more opportunities to become customers. And if you have the ability to capture those people, then you can utilize their enthusiasm. And that's going to give you more video ads that will show people that they should be a part of your world, which is going to drive more people into your nurturing sequence. That's going to continue to build velocity. And you can see how essentially anywhere you put this, the people just continue to stay in until they decide to leave. But the percentage of people that leave is going to be less than the percentage of people that stay in, which is going to just continue to make this flywheel grow and grow faster and with more velocity and more speed. Tobin, did you have anything that, based on like the things I've gone with? I know I'm going so fast because I want to make sure that.
No, this is great, Jaime. And we did have a couple of questions coming in.
Awesome.
one of the things I wanted to ask you about too was like when you said, folks at the top of the funnel, so
Yeah.
essentially your cold traffic, stopping and watching 30-minute videos. I think a lot of people were like, what? I
Yeah.
mean, they wanted to hear more about that.
Yeah.
And Tina asked specifically in our group, she said, so she was referring to your Vanguard diagram that you shared as an example early on, that is it always a lower priced item at the top that sort of gets this tricks this process off? Or I think if you're doing videos and content, it's probably free experiences as well that people are paying with their attention more than with their dollars. Am I reading that right?
Totally. So I'll pull that. I think I can pull that one back up. Yeah. So in the Vanguard case, their flywheel was to offer those low cost mutual funds as the entry point that they then that's their entry point. They have low cost percentages on all of their sales, which should encourage more people to do more in it because they have a superior experience, and it just keeps moving the flywheel around. Your flywheel can be anything that works for you. For me personally, I, until recently, have built my entire business off of high ticket. I haven't had a low ticket until very, very, very recently. And so it doesn't have to be low ticket in order to get people in. If you don't have low ticket, then really building on your value. So exactly like you said, providing value out to the world, getting people in and continuing to provide value, so that you're building those audiences in a way. And then, of course, you can never forget, you have to make the offer. It's just not necessarily only relying on the offer super early, but after providing value and nurturing those people. So, we see often actually situations where the cost of watching anywhere from 6 minutes to 30 minutes, I've even seen up to 60 minutes, is a quarter of the cost that you would try to get people to go through a lead magnet funnel to see that video, and then, try to nurture them through emails. So it's so interesting, right? If you look at it that way, you're spending maybe $8 to get the lead for the webinar, and then only 30% of those people even watch the webinar, and you're spending $2.50 to have somebody watch 100% of a 30-minute video on Facebook. So it's an interesting kind of way to leverage the value you're putting out into the world and build audiences that you can put those offers in front of. So you can retarget those people with your offer because they watch 30 minutes. They're as interested as anyone who would have gone through your lead funnel. And it's likely going to cost you less to put that second ad in front of them to retarget them than it would be to try and just remarket to them through the email funnel.
Yeah, I mean, I think first of all, there's some folks in the audience right now who are saying, if you've got $8 leads, like give me all those that you can, because particularly in the expert space, I mean, we will sometimes see webinar leads as high as $250. People, on an acquisition basis, not just pay per click, but I mean, people's attention is the currency of the day in many ways, because you can always make more money, but there's only so much time that we all have, and we have to be selective about how we use it. Another question that came up, Consuelo asked, can you talk a little bit about this approach, the psychology of what you're describing and how it applies on different platforms? So specifically, she asked, you've referenced Facebook. How does this apply on LinkedIn, for example? But I know this is something that you're actively looking at, which is the strategies on different platforms and sort of moving the needle here and there. Can you share a little bit more of what you're seeing?
So we are actively testing an ad strategy on YouTube, which is very similar to, it's being set up very similar to Facebook. On LinkedIn, the great thing is their organic reach is so incredible. So the reality is you can replicate this, and it is like so much of what Tobin teaches. you are actually doing this. This is a huge part of what you're doing because you're providing a lot of value out there. You're engaging with people. So by going and engaging on other people's audiences, you're doing this part where you're building trust and authority, and you're creating relationships in a way that is actually driving you to build more relationships, which builds your trust and authority. And then if you're engaging with other people regularly and you're putting really good content out there regularly, and you choose to put offers out there. I mean, this is one of the areas that I think a lot of people actually don't do enough. And they don't do it enough because they think they're going to burn out the audiences. But if you're doing enough of the trust and authority piece, you're doing a lot of that, then putting the offers out regularly is not going to feel overwhelming. So, doing that. And then when you get up to having those people that are your customers, that are your clients, especially in the expert space, don't be afraid to get the testimonial and re-put it out there. People will only do parts of this, but once you start creating a system that does each one of these things and then putting into the next, so you get the testimonial and then you put it into your post on LinkedIn, and those are the ones that engage and build trust and authority. So then your next post is your offer of a 2-step so that you get people in to have a real conversation with you and hopefully get them on the phone. I hope that helps.
Yeah, it does. So again, what I'm taking away is there's a lot of psychology in this.
Mm-hmm.
The platforms are always going to have unique differences.
Totally.
So you adjust and amend to the platform that you're on. But if the psychology is strong, and that's really what this flywheel is the psychology of building relationships with this unique I would call it a combination, a hybrid of organic plus the paid traffic side, in a way that people, they want more of it, they're asking for more of it, and they're paying for it with their attention they put into it.
And you know what, that brings up a really good point that I think is really important to think about, that I see so often, is that people do this really amazing organic strategy. They have like really great ways of engaging with people on LinkedIn or on Facebook. They do lives, they do whatever they need to do, and they're doing really well with that. And then they go over to the ad side and they create a totally different and totally separate direct response funnel. And they're missing out on this huge amount of leverage because they already have all of these pieces that could really drive bigger audiences, nurture them, and create long-term relationships if they utilize both of those things together. And that is one of the interesting things. My example, and actually I talked about it, but this next slide that I have here is actually the results from the 2 different years. So it's so interesting. Like I said, these guys are amazing content creators. They built an incredible tribe, and they had a funnel going that was like, we sell hats and t-shirts, buy our hats and t-shirts, come back and buy our hats and t-shirts. And they did well, they did fine, but it didn't actually create growth monetarily. And the second that we took what they do organically that builds tribes and attract people and put it into their ads, and then after that piece of it said, buy our stuff. Oh, you buy our stuff, watch our content. Oh, you watch our content, buy our stuff. It turned it around into this incredible money-making machine.
You're getting some rave reviews about this. So for example, Jaime, I think you know this lady, Caitlin,
Oh,
I think.
hi.
Yeah. So she says, I really love this idea. Take what's already working, right? Do it inside your advertising approach. I think that was a good way of summing that up. Jaime, can you...
She's always so good at that.
can you share... so we have one more question, then I'll get out of your way so you can sort of wrap up the masterclass piece of it. But one question came up about, can you talk about how this builds into a high ticket offer? So I think the questions are related between that free, that low cost, and how for folks who are trying to drive to a high ticket offer, what that looks like.
Yeah, let me see. I can't remember if the next one, I think the next one I put in is also an e-com example. I should have put in, I will just tell you about another example that we had. So This one, just really quick, basically this was a store that we took over, and this is year-over-year results utilizing this strategy from just a direct response. So one, to show that you can do this at like more scaled numbers. But also, so to the high ticket question, so there's a lot of ways you can do this, and it really can work multiple ways depending on the way that you actually make your sales in high ticket. One example is a coach that we work with that does quarterly 3-day virtual events. And it's a 3-day intensive. And at the end of it, she pitches her mastermind event. Her mastermind program, which is a $25,000 offer. And we essentially, what we do with her is exactly what I talked about. We use her value-based videos. For her, we use anywhere from 6 to 15-minute videos at the top of the funnel and the middle of funnel. And then we retarget those people in 2 different ways. One is to evergreen webinar that sells into her course program, which is $12.95. And that's it essentially goes to anyone who watches over a certain percentage of video or takes higher funnel direct action. So maybe they go to her website, they click through to the ads, they engage by commenting, those kinds of things. Those people will see that offer. Then when her event is coming up for the period of time, the launch period of time for the ticket sales, we'll run that offer to all the people that will buy the ticket to go to her 3-day event, which she then sells into. So the last 3-day event, we spent $3,000 in ads. She sold $150,000 of her mastermind program, and $45,000 was directly attributed to tickets purchased 1 click through an ad. And we're estimating about $30,000 was also attributed from the people who continuously saw her value-based nurture videos, because let's be real, on Facebook especially, you don't get that kind of organic reach. So we want to be nurturing those people and making them really feel like before they get to that event, they know who she is and they really want to be there. Then at the event, before the offer, we have her do video ask forms to everyone who's attended so far to get story brand question videos answered that we can then utilize to put into the next round of advertising to build her trust and authority that drives into the next one. And we can use those for other things. Like literally right now, we just launched ads for a challenge for her that she will then be selling into her medium ticket program. So that's one way. If you go to book calls, let's just say, same thing. So essentially, when you have those longer form videos, you're putting your conversion ad in front of anyone who has taken enough action to really engage with you. So they've watched, 3, 4, 5, 10 minutes of your videos and really engage with what you're talking about and the value you're providing in the world. Does that answer that question? I hope so.
Yeah, sorry, I jumped off the screen for a second to give you the space. But yes, this is awesome. And I just want to add one more thing on a point of clarification that came up earlier about the different platforms.
Oh, yeah.
Jaime, you've referenced sort of the shift and the seismic changes that are happening in the Facebook space, for example. One thing that you can look at on different platforms is also sort of the amount of content. So I do a lot of work on LinkedIn. I'll give you an example there.
Yeah.
LinkedIn is a content deficit network, meaning the amount of content that's being created there is being created by a very small percentage. Single digit number of people are actually posting regularly on LinkedIn. So there's a lot of people, not a lot of content. Not as much time is spent on LinkedIn as Facebook, for example. But if you go over onto Facebook, you've got a lot of people, but you also have a lot of content that's being shared. And so that's why the organic reach is just naturally going to be lower in that space. And you can use these different points to your advantage, depending on what what platform you're on.
Yeah.
Or the other thing
True.
I really liked, Jamie, in the example you gave of the client is the flywheel is also what we're doing on a day-to-day basis in our business. So when she went and asked for those social proof videos from her event attendees, that was gathering more material that's just going to keep this flywheel spinning for her.
Exactly.
So I thought that was great.
Of course, it gives you feedback on your event and how to improve it next time. That's the biggest piece is it's about leveraging all the different areas in our business and having them all work together. I see too often people separate out these things and don't have them working in a way where we can leverage them to accelerate all the parts of our business.
Oh, that's interesting. So the assets are there, but they may not be constructed into the flywheel sequence to allow them to amplify.
Often actually, I think is the case. You probably are sitting on a lot of value that you're not using.
Interesting. Jamie, bring us home. Folks, we're 5 minutes till the top of the hour. If you are not already, have not joined our group in AirMeet, what's going to happen next, we're going to sort of transition at the top of the hour. We're going to wrap up this portion of the masterclass, the live stream. We're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, we're on YouTube, we're in a bunch of different places, but we're going to be going into our Q&A tables because we have folks that have questions and they want a little bit of Jamie's time to understand this flywheel concept. And the question, the prompt that we're going to ask of you guys is to think about your business. Where are areas in your business that you could start to create this flywheel effect and how it can start to work for you, even when you take a little bit of time off? Imagine that. You go away, you step away from your business, but the flywheel keeps spinning, just like Jamie introduced us at the beginning. It's continuing to work for you while you might be fixing a different part of your business.
Yep.
The flywheel continues to turn.
I love that. Yes.
Bring us home, Jamie.
All right. So I know this could be a lot. I totally recognize this. This is years of me learning this as well. So I just want to put out there that I am actively working on a kind of mini course to be able to do some of these things yourself on the Facebook ad side mainly at the moment. And so I want to give everyone who's a part of this the opportunity to be a beta tester for me and give me that feedback that I can take and build it into this amazing opportunity. I think this link should be live. I created it right before. If not, it will be by the end of our networking, but it will just be an opt-in page where you guys can opt in and be the very first to be notified of getting beta access for this mini course that I'm putting together that gives you basically the step-by-step of how to create a flywheel for yourself in Facebook ads. And I will send this out to everybody. And that way, if you want to talk a little bit more deeply about strategy, I would be happy to, and you can grab a time on my calendar. So we're going to do Q&A in the next section. So thank you guys so much. I am so pumped to be here and can't wait to chat more about it with everybody.
Yeah, excited to get into this. This has been great, Jamie. So appreciate you taking the time and really bringing a different perspective on what, we hear so much about the funnel process that sometimes you got to look at this with fresh eyes. And I love this concept of you have assets in the business that you're probably under leveraging because they just, the puzzle pieces haven't been fit into this flywheel format, the framework that you've brought to us. Really nice.
Totally. Love it.
Awesome, folks. Again, I will put one last time. Let me grab that link. And I'm going to put it in the comments for anyone who wants to join us on AirMeet for the Q&A table. So that's there. And Jamie, we'll see you there, and we'll see the group in just a few minutes here.
Okay, awesome. Looking forward to it.